Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hampton, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. I'm very happy to welcome Shawn Camp to Got Grass. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
So I know you're a busy guy. I just heard you've been battling COVID, but what's a good day off like for you if you ever get one and you're not sick? Like, what would be a perfect day off?
I would say getting to go mow grass on my farm for like 2 or 3 days. You know, there's a lot of grass to mow over there. You know?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good, relaxing, fun thing to do. A lot of the musicians I've talked to on here say that music chose them, and I'm guessing that music chose you. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I think so. You know, my dad played guitar, and he sang, and my mom played a guitar and sang a little bit, but they used to sing together and do little harmonies and songs all the time around the house. And so, you know, my dad's mother played guitar. She, you know, and all of her side of the family played instruments of some sort. So from the time I could walk, I would drag my dad's guitar up into bed with me and sleep with it at night, you know, and I was just a year or two old, you know. So I didn't start playing chords on it till I was 5 when my dad taught me chords, you know. And it's been part of me all along. And they had a great record collection, so music's really been my first love. And
do you remember what your first musical memories were? Like, do you remember hearing certain songs, or will you get sung to at night when you went to bed, that kind of thing? Do you remember early music in your life, or?
Well, I mean, I remember the records, you know, that they would play, and you know, the Jimmy Rogers records, the Hank Williams records, and you know, just their record collection, really, and the picking parties. We would have picking parties when I was just a little kid, and go to these folks' houses and whatever they were singing. It was all, you know, a lot of old bluegrass songs or old country songs. Just pulling from all of that, really, you know.
Yeah. I've heard that you were influenced as a kid by a famous fiddle player, or not famous, but well, maybe famous fiddle player named Sis Draper, which sounds like a name out of an old Woody Guthrie or some kind of old Leadbelly song. It's a great name, but what are your memories of her and how she came into your life?
Well, she was a real lady, you know. I mean, my grandpa and my Uncle Cleve, before I ever met her, I remember them saying, "Boy, you really better get to practicing if you're going to play with Sis when she comes home, because she don't just play with anybody, you know." And so when she finally showed up, you know, with a big beehive hairdo and a fiddle in a coffin case, and walked in there and opened it up, started playing Ragtime Annie and Sally Gooden and, you know, all these old tunes, you know, she was a superstar to me. I thought, you know, I had a crush on her, and she was, you know, she was a striking figure, you know, walking in the house and doing that. And just, you know, it made me love the fiddle. I didn't get to touch one. I mean, for years after that, I played guitar at 5 and mandolin at 7. So I was probably playing mandolin when I met her. And we had a picking party when I was 12 years old. And I don't remember Sis being there, but this local harmonica player named Elijah McDonald, he came in and he brought his wife's fiddle and he laid it on the couch. And before the night was over, I had snuck around and learned how to play Over the Waves on the fiddle. And he got ready to leave, and he said, "You keep that fiddle and learn to play it." So I was just beside myself, thrilled that there was a fiddle in the house, you know. And so I started scratching around on that thing for a couple of days. And my mama got in one of her moods, and she said, "Boy, you go in there and march in there and get that fiddle. We're going to Lige McDonald's house, and you're taking that fiddle back to him." She got sick of hearing me scratch on that thing. So I didn't touch, I was 12 years old. I didn't touch another fiddle until Christmas when I was 15. And my folks bought me a fiddle. And I remember I had opened a couple of little presents, a shirt or something there. And then Daddy disappeared down the hall, and I heard this horrible sound, coming down the hall. And I go, "Oh, y'all bought me some bagpipes." And Daddy comes scratching the fiddle into the room, and so that was my fiddle. And I was 15, and within a few months, I was working as a fiddle player at the local VFWs and American Legions with these little bands in Arkansas. Fiddlers are hard to find over there, so uh, that's how I started working on playing fiddle.
Was she a local person, Sis Draper, or was she just someone that came through from time to time?
No, she was a local person. My great uncle had married her for a time, and
Oh,
she 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 was like a relative by marriage for a time, but all of my grandpa and all of his brothers and sisters grew up around her. So actually, my uncle Cleve um, told me he drove the buckboard that carried Sis's mama to the graveyard, and so I mean, old country family, stuff there, So that's all a lot of real life in this album.
yeah. So did you get to play with her after you kind of learned how to play? Did you, or was she kind of gone from your life by then?
She was gone pretty much. She disappeared and ended up out in New Mexico, and where she passed away. And um, I I really don't remember the last time I saw her, but I do remember when I was about 8 years old, I guess. She asked me for my autograph at a picking party we were sitting outside under someone's carport, and she asked me if to give her my autograph. And hell, I didn't know what an autograph was. Like I surely didn't have one. You know, but that was the first autograph I ever gave to anybody, was to Sis Draper.
Wow. So I know you've played with a lot of country and bluegrass people over the years and written songs for them. Was it your dream always to be a country singer, star? Like, did you have a starlight in your eyes and went to Nashville to become a certain something? Or
I just wanted to be the best I could be at whatever I was doing, and I always tried to keep a lot of irons in the fire because I needed to survive. And so, I've always been intrigued by different instruments and loved trying to play different instruments. And if somebody needed me to play a particular instrument, I usually tried to play it, even if I sucked. But you know, when it came to be that I was on Warner Brothers in the early '90s, I embraced that thought and hoped that it would be a good thing for me to be a part of and do. It turned out to be pretty weird. A lot of politics involved in the mainstream country world, and still, I, I do have a lot of friends that are doing that and that are artists in the country world, and they're doing great. I wish I'd done as well as they did at it, but um, I don't know, man. I've been a lot more rootsy, I think, than most of those folks generally, and I I like playing in theaters and like a 300 seat place or something like that. That's where I'm most comfortable, or bluegrass festivals are nice. I enjoy that type of crowd, big arenas and coliseum, huge things. I don't like the way it sounds in there, and so it irritates me. I'm glad to see folks, but it's like maybe I've made the right choices by going a little bit underground at times.
Yeah. I've heard a couple of your songs from the early 90s. My daughter was a teenager and she was doing like some rodeo riding and stuff, believe it or not, in Rhode Island, doing a little barrel racing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the guy who was teaching bull riding there was this Wyoming cowboy, and he listened to country music all the time. So she started to. She was like 12, so I started to. So your song sounds like it's something I would have heard on the radio in 93 or 94. I mean, that was the kind of stuff that was just cranking along. I mean, it was very great sounding music. It had a great hook. It was rocking, but after a while, it kind of all sounded a little bit the same to me. I don't know. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. A lot of that stuff does of that era for sure. But I was proud to be able to bring in some great musicians on those records, like Roy Husky Jr. played bass on "Fall and Never Felt So Good," and James Burton from Elvis's band played the guitar. And I had some really unique sidemen on those records, and that was a real treat to me. You know, Bobby Hicks playing fiddle on some stuff, and on my second album for Warner Brothers, I actually had Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Quartet come in and sing on a song, and so that was a real treat, you know, to have the ability to call on some great players, even though they wanted me to play the game, which I really didn't do, you know. But you know, I was just starting out. I didn't have a lot of great songs at that time. If they hadn't decided not to push me as a country artist, I wouldn't have gone to the woods and piled up a bunch of songs, and that turned it out to be the way to go for me, you know.
yeah. So that it seemed at one point to you that being a singer versus being a songwriter, there's probably a better career move to write songs and go that route, or just like how did the country singer thing kind of end? You just didn't want to do it anymore? You didn't like the way the business was, or
Well, uh, I had a producer that ended up running a big record label, and you know, the label that I was on would not put a record out on me. They wouldn't put a single out, and you know, they didn't want me to put a record out if it didn't sound like the current John Michael Montgomery record of the time, and I didn't want to do that. And the producer friend of mine had told me, "Hey, if you ever get off Warner Brothers, come right on over to this label, and I'm going to sign you." Well, he let me down, and he didn't do it. So I was prepared to shift gears and jump to another label and keep on working, but it didn't pan out that way, you know. And at the time, when I started having hits as a writer or writing songs that hit artists would record, it was a good living for me, you know. Nowadays, uh, you can't do that. You know, it's just it's the money's not the same as far as a writer's career goes, and you know, with streaming and everything's, uh, you know, all of the mechanical money has vanished. Really, there's only the only hope you have is to have a big hit single, and then you might make some money, but there's no in between. There's no dynamics to what you hear. It's all got to be a hit, up tempo, positive thing that's up here doing this thing all the time, that's making the money. And anything that has dynamics or a soft touch or a ballad or anything that's not what they want on the mainstream radio, it's you have no money coming in for that. But
yeah,
the show and performing to me is where it's at. You know, I mean, you can put a dynamic show together and have, you know, have it be intimate when you want it to be, and that appeals to me, you know.
yeah. So I read that your given name was Daryl Deshawn Camp, and then you changed to Shawn. Was that their decision to be a country singer, or you just wanted
No.
to make it simple, easy, or were you always called Shawn?
Well, when I was a little boy, I'd go by Daryl when I got into school for a few years there, and then these little girls would call the house, ask Mama where Daryl was, and she started getting irritated. But all around the house growing up, uh, my folks always call me Shawn. I've been Shawn my entire life, to my family. You know, my folks lived in France when my dad was stationed over there in the 50s. And I think that's where Mama got Deshawn, you know.
Uh,
But anyway, I just never went by Deshawn. But
yeah.
Sean is what I've always gone by.
Do you think a country singer's name is kind of important in some way to their uh, what they call now their brand or career, or just doesn't really matter what your name is? I mean, do you think a name like a cool name is important to being a country singer, or
I think it's not. It's a good idea. You know, I mean, it'd be great if you've got one. You know, evidently it's worked for years to get a stage name and go with it. You know, I mean, I think Zach Top's got a great name, and I think that's really his name. You know, I've never met the boy, but he's really entertaining. I like his singing records. A
me too? Yeah, yeah,
little bit of bluegrass in there.
yeah. So it seemed like in the early 70s, country music was kind of getting, this is when you were a kid, I guess, but it was getting very run by the business end of country music. And I know a lot of these guys didn't like it. Willie Nelson, Townes Van Zandt, and Waylon, all these people didn't like that kind of country music. So you were young then, but you were attracted to that music and those guys at some point, right? They
Right.
were, yeah, yeah. Um, so how old were you when you kind of realized, I guess you had gone to Nashville to become a country singer, and then that kind of didn't work out too well. Was it at that point we said, this is not really the place for me. I want to get kind of more into more progressive country like those guys, or what was your mindset when you stopped getting albums from traditional country Nashville? Like,
Well, I mean, I moved to Nashville in January of 1987 as a fiddle player for the
mhm.
Osborne Brothers, and worked as a sideman with a lot of folks like Jerry Reed and Alan Jackson. I was his first fiddler, and Susie Boggess, Trisha Yearwood, Shelby Lynn worked in their bands. And after that is during that time I was writing songs. So after that is when I got the shot at Warner Brothers to do the records. But I really kind of don't understand what your question is there. I mean, that's kind of the way it progressed anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Well,
I was drawn to a Nashville of the '60s, really, or '50s. In my mind, when I came here, that's what I was looking for. Like Roger Miller and you know, uh, you know, uh, Waylon and Merle Haggard or whatever, Tom T. Hall and people of that time period. But the charts, they had vanished from the charts when I got here in '87.
mhm.
So um, I don't know, man. I guess it's always changing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I'm going to get into a little bit of a Guy Clark discussion. I know you and Guy Clark were friends and wrote together, and he was a probably a hero to you in some ways, right?
Oh,
As
absolutely.
as a songwriter and a performer. But I was listening to some of his interviews, and one comment he made really stuck with me. He said, "You got to leave holes in the right place in a song so the listener can get inside the song." And I thought, wow, I never thought of it that way. Because you write a lot of songs. I've tried to write songs. It's very hard to write a song that doesn't try to say everything. And his
Yeah.
songs don't say everything, but they mean everything. And yours
Right.
too. It's in there, but it's not stated. Every word is not stated out. And I thought that was a pretty cool way of putting it. You have to leave holes in there where the listener can get in.
I love that. I never really heard him say that, but that makes a lot of sense. And I can see that was kind of the way he worked. I know that working with him was maybe the greatest thing I ever happened to me in Nashville. When I was on Warner Brothers, they said, "Well, if you could write with anybody in Nashville, who would that be?" And I said, I was thinking, let's see, I'll just dream. I'm going to just spit out a name here, and there's no way they're going to do this. But how about Guy Clark? And like another couple of weeks later, I'm sitting across the table from Guy Clark, and we write a song. Right off the bat, song called "Cowcatcher Blues," and it that was it. I left and I didn't follow up. I thought, man, I don't want to bug him. and a couple of years later, a few years later, we end up at a friend's wedding. We're standing around. He's smoking a cigarette outside. He said, "Oh, Shawn, when you going to come over to the house and write another song with me?" I said, "Hell, I'll be there tomorrow if you want to." And so I went over there and we just started hanging. And, uh, just, I don't know how it all happened, but it must have been meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a song you guys wrote, famous one, Magnolia Wind, which I think is maybe the most beautiful and sad love song or one of them ever written. It's my favorite song of yours.
Oh,
Um,
thank you, man.
do you remember writing that? Was that a struggle? Like how'd that come about? I know sometimes writers say, well, a song just comes to me, I write it down in 20 minutes and I'm done. Other ones say, oh, I work on it for months and months and always fiddling with it. So that song, do you remember, was it over a lot of pot and cigarettes, or was it just like, how did it come about? A song like that? Does it just
Uh,
happen?
well, it was, I mean, every song was over a lot of pot and cigarettes at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're sitting across from Guy, that was going on over there, at least on his side of the table, and sometimes across the table. But Guy, we wrote the Magnolia Wind thing as part of the Sis Draper saga. That was the second song about Sis that we wrote. And in my mind, the melody I kind of pulled from the Waltons theme and Hickory Wind, and my, da 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 da.
Mm.
You know, it just
Hmm.
had that feel to it. And but it was about um, about Sis Draper and just falling in love with her. Uh, under a magnolia tree. That was kind of the image in my mind, and we worked on it that day, and I think we revisited it the next day we got together, and it didn't change much from the very first. It's just we didn't realize it was that good a song. Truthfully, we played it for people. That's the tell-all tale. Playing a song for somebody, and you can feel how it affects them. And that
Yeah.
always makes the crowd get quiet, and they just seem to be drawn to it. And so I don't know what makes it special, but I'm glad it is.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody on the pod. I think it was John Weisberger who was talking about songwriting, co-writing, and he said um, his co-writer, whoever it would be, usually would have the idea or the phrase, and then John would kind of act as the filler or editor, kind of like, you know, one guy was kind of the idea guy, one guy was kind of like the structuring the song guy. Is that a common way to write songs, or does it just depend on the people?
I don't go about it that way. I feel like every song is unique to itself, and it's like um, I, I don't. There's no square approach to it. To me, it's like I don't know, man. Whatever hits you at that moment, whatever it is, um, you can work from that point. And it's not really work. It's a game. It's a passionate gamble, really, to me, to write a song, and it's a thrilling thing. It's not like to me. I don't work. I don't feel like I work that way. I love John, and John's written some great songs, and we've written a few things together, but I never felt like we did it that way. But maybe I'm wrong. Uh,
Yeah, that was his take. I mean, I don't, maybe that's just, I guess he's more of like the professor type, and maybe that's
he
how he,
is, yeah, that's his personality, I think, though. But uh, and I appreciate that. I don't know, man. Just got to go with whatever the muse is.
yeah. Um, one of my favorite Gibson Brothers songs, "Dying for Someone to Live For." I was surprised. I didn't know you wrote that song. It sounded like something that the way they sang it, like it sounded like they wrote it. It was so personal to them. But one of my favorite songs of the Gibsons. You wrote that song, right?
I wrote that with Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn. Wow.
Yeah, and the coal miner's daughter. And
Hmm.
That was the first song I co-wrote with Loretta. I ended up writing quite a few with her, and but she had the title, and she had a stack of titles, like on old brassiere pieces of cardboard and things that she had written in cars traveling all over the world, little scraps, little ideas and thoughts. And she was spitting out all these titles, one right after the other. And she came across with that one and kept on talking. It was like she was in high gear telling me all these titles. I was going, whoa, whoa, hold on, back up. What is this song? I'm dying for someone to live for. And she said, you like that? And I said, yeah, I think that's the one we need to write. And in my mind, it was about the loss of her husband, Dew. And it was, she put a lot into that. And it was a co-written song. I was honored to work with her, man. She was like the female Hank Williams of our lifetime, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny how, as a listener to a song, you just interpret it the way you interpret it. It might not be the way it was intended, or maybe there was no intention. Maybe the song was just written and everyone gets to get what they want out of it.
Right.
Maybe there's no message.
I think that adds to the comment that guy made about leaving holes so that the listener can get into the song. Everyone's got their own picture that they see when a song's sang to them, and or they've got an interpretation. And I feel like I do a better job on other people's songs, really, because I interpret them a little deeper than I tend to do my own. I feel like, out of respect, and I try to make it as close to the way the song was written. I don't try to tweak songs into what I would make them if I can, because if they're special enough to want to do them, I want to honor that songwriter and his work on it, because he's already fought all the battles to try to get it as good as he can, unless there's just something obvious
Mm-hmm.
that I want to do differently, and that's just rare. But like, I love doing other people's songs because of that, because we all interpret songs.
Yeah. Yeah. So your own stuff, it's okay to mess around with it, or because it's yours.
Yeah,
You can sing it any way you want.
right,
People are going to sing along and laugh and have a beer, but somebody else's song, that's more like respect.
right, right. That's the way I feel about it, because it's an honorable thing, to hold up a song the way it was intended.
There's a great record you produced and played a lot on called My Favorite Picture of You. It was a Guy Clark record. Um, what are your memories of that session? I know I saw you had Bryn Davies played bass in that, and Bryn played here quite a few times with Tony Rice, and one of my favorite bass players and singers. I
Yeah,
was surprised to see your name on there.
she's great. Yeah, wonderful player and great person. And yeah, you know, uh, that was a really great moment in time to get to play on that with Verlin Thompson, Guy, Bryn. Uh, I can't remember if Kenny Malone was on that record or not. Maybe he was, but Kenny always played on Guy records too. But the beautiful thing about that record to me was the uh, the fragility in the tone of Guy's voice, and the honesty. It seemed more honest to me than any record he ever made. You know, Chris Latham also co-produced that and did all the engineering, and he's magic, and he makes some great sounding records. So don't want to fail to mention him.
Yeah, yeah. I know you played with the Osborne brothers. I just had C.J. Lewandowski on my podcast, and of course, he became really good friends with Bobby Osborne up
Yeah,
until he died. And he did that album, um, which I think is being released very soon, with Bobby. A lot of their songs remind me a little bit of your project, your new project of Guy Clark songs. Like it was his idol and mentor, but also his really good friend, and he was able to, I guess, record with Bobby Osborne just before he passed away. And so I was getting to your new project, the Ghost of Sis Draper, which um, obviously isn't out yet, but I know it's coming out sometime soon.
Yeah,
And that's
September 12th. Yeah.
September the 12th. Yeah. Um, what do you want to say about that, if anything, or just want people to go out and get it when it comes out?
Uh, sure. Just go out and get it.
We'll
Get
get it.
two of them.
Okay.
Go out and
Go
get
get it.
two of them.
You'll get two. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, how'd you choose the musicians for that project? Was it just people that you knew and thought would enjoy that kind of music and fit in with it well, or
well,
friends, or?
my brother Mike Bubb, he's been my pal for years and plays bass with me on everything, just about.
Mhm.
Uh, I wanted him on the project, and first I wanted to get Tim Crouch, who was to me the greatest Arkansas fiddler that ever lived. And um, he still lives over in Arkansas, and he's Grand Masters champion, and just one of the best fiddlers on earth, in my opinion. So when he was available to do it, I got Mike Bubb and Chris Henry on mandolin, and my buddy Jimmy Stewart, who used to play with me in my band in the early '90s, and now he plays with Brooks and Dunn and Reba McEntire. But Jimmy sings great and writes great songs. Excuse me. But also, I never played one note with this banjo player named Corey Walker, but I called him, and he showed up, and man, he pulled his weight and then some. What a great banjo player and great guy. And I hope to play a lot more with him because he's the real deal.
I've seen him a lot. Actually, he actually played here at one point with Sierra Hull's band when he was, well, this is probably, I don't know, 13 or more, 14 years ago. He was pretty young, very unknown at the time. But now I see him, he's playing with David Greer a lot. He plays with everybody. He's an amazing player.
Yeah,
Very amazing player. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. You probably know Big Al Anderson, right?
Yeah, probably. Uh,
I
uh,
mean, Big Al is a Connecticut boy, so he was a hero of ours when we were teenagers with his band, the Wild Weeds.
oh man,
He used to play around at all the rec centers and high school dances and stuff back in the late '60s. And I mean, what a singer, a guitar player, and a presence he was. Jesus.
he still is, man. He's what an amazing player and great guy. And I talked to him a couple days ago, and he's hanging in there. He lives out in Santa Fe now, and
Oh,
he's out there soaking up the sun, And but I'm in a band with him, although we hardly ever play anymore. Called the World Famous Headliners, and that's me and Big Al and Pat McLaughlin and Greg Morrow on the drums. Michael Rhodes was on the bass, and he passed away a couple of years ago. So that's kind of stopped us in our tracks there as far as the band goes. But we recorded 2 albums we wrote for that band, and it's it's fun, man. It's the closest thing to a rock and roll band as I've ever been in, and uh, if I ever wanted to get in a rock band, that'd be the one to get in, with Big Al.
yeah. I love watching him or hearing him. He plays it's like a blue, is it a plastic guitar he plays when he's by
Oh,
himself? Whatever it
CA.
is,
Yeah, it's a carbon fiber CA.
carbon fiber thing. And it just has this crazy, unique sound. But something about Al Anderson, a lot of singers, good singers by themselves, to me, it's like magical. I don't care what song he's singing or whatever. He's playing on that plinky guitar, which honestly sometimes sounds like shit, but it's just the whole sound is just unforgettable. I love it. I love him for that.
I love him, period. I tell you, man, I think from little on, he was playing just amazing chords for a kid, for anybody. I mean, he's got a different slant on how to make chords and what. I mean, he's just there's just no end to the depth he's got as a musician, truthfully, and great singer, great writer, and he's just one of the best.
Apparently when he was a teenager, he used to play in all these like black blues clubs around Connecticut, and the black audience would see him up on stage, and I'd always assumed he was a black guy because he just had that soulful voice, and they'd be shocked to see this big white guy with a beard up there singing this stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
He wants to be black more than anybody I've ever met. And he comes pretty close. He's got the soul going on for a white boy for sure.
So is there a song of yours that you would say you're most proud of, or a couple, or is it just so many hard to even put a? I mean, it's kind of an irrelevant question, but I just was curious to know which song of yours you feel strongest about, like it's
Mm.
a good song, or
I wrote a song back during the pandemic that about John Wilkes Booth, and it's about 10 minutes long. And I I believe the story in the song, and I enjoy doing it. I don't do it often because where do you do a song that's 10 minutes long? So I have to pick and choose. But right now, that might be my favorite. But it all changes. I mean, it depends on the moment what the song is at any given time.
yeah. Can you think of a song I'm sure that you wrote that became a big hit that you were kind of surprised about? Like, whoa, that was not that
Any of them,
great.
really, all of them. But the first big old hit was the two Pina Coladas thing, which Garth Brooks had out, and that was a surprise. I didn't even want to go make a work tape on it. It didn't. I didn't think it was that good, and man, everybody still sings it in the audience. But thanks to Garth Brooks, that's the case.
Yeah.
The first day out of the shoot, it sold 7 million records, and I don't have any idea what it sold now, but it was number one for 4 or 5 weeks out there, and it turned out to be a life changing song for me. Bought a lot of guitars with that song.
So when you write a successful song that somebody gets a big hit on, does that increase your uh, royalty for the next song you write? Like, does it make you? I mean, obviously you make money on a song like that, but then next time you write a song, are you like on a little higher echelon, like get a higher percentage or something? Or is it that doesn't happen?
I don't think that works for me. I mean, it might work for somebody that way, but not me. I'm just
Uh,
no. I'm only as good as my current single. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you compare songwriting in any way with poetry, like a song is a poem set to music, or do you see poetry or writing and a song as like separate things?
well, I love poetry and everything, but um, to me, I don't write poetry. I write it. I write songs. Because melodies and I mean, that's just music is such a part of me. I can't think about poetry without turning it into a song. So I respect poetry, and I think there's some beautiful things out there, but I never was one to just sit around and read poetry either. So, but I always like to find uh, story songs and you know things that beautiful lines and songs. I mean, I kind of I feel like I would be wasting my efforts, but to write a poem in my shoes anyway. I've got to put it to music, and I think there are some poems in my songs,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a question or not.
No, that's a good answer. I mean, I think some songs you can just recite the lyrics and it's kind of a poem. And
Right,
other songs without the music, it just sounds ridiculous. Like it has to go with music. It's all part of the feel. Yeah.
right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know how to go any further with that question, but
Okay, we'll move on here.
okay.
So let's talk about the Earls of Leicester, because that must have been a big deal for you to join that band. I mean, that must have been a happy, fun thing. It's been a great ride, right? It still is, but I mean, that's been
Yeah,
a hugely popular thing.
Yeah, I
so many
love it.
people.
It's a lot of fun. To me, it's like a Broadway play, though. I approach it like I'm playing Lester Flatt in this deal.
Uh,
And I love that music, and I'm really honored to be in the middle of that and with such high level musicianship. It's great, it's as close to standing in the middle of a Flatt and Scruggs album or record as I could ever hope to be, and I love that. And I used to fantasize a bit about being in that band. When I first moved to Nashville, I would listen to Flatt and Scruggs live at Carnegie Hall and think I have just missed out. There's nobody cutting, nobody recording, nobody playing this kind of stuff. I'm never going to be in a band like this, and it really was heartbreaking.
mm-hmm.
And I used to think the same thing about Hank Williams records. I love that sound, and um, it just fell out of fashion, before I got here. But um, what a blessing, man, to get to be in the middle of Charlie Cushman and Jerry Douglas and Johnny Warren and Daniel Kimbrough and just be there playing as close as we can to the Foggy Mountain Boys stuff. And
Yeah.
same with Jeff White's one of the greatest singers. You know, I love his harmony singing, and a lot of times he's gone with Lyle Lovett though, and we're also working with a great guy named Ashby Frank, man, and
Oh
Ashby
yeah.
super picker and great singer, and we kind of have had a revolving door on the Curly Seckler front for the entire run of the band. The original Curly was Tim O'Brien on the first record,
You remember?
and I loved him so much, and he fits the mold for that Curly part very well too.
So that band was it kind of like a Jerry Douglas idea, like let's just play some Flatt and Scruggs and see what happens, or how did that band actually uh, take shape?
Well, Johnny Warren and Charlie Cushman grew up playing together, banjo and fiddle. And Johnny, his dad played with Flatt and Scruggs. Paul Warren, the fiddler, and he uses the same fiddle as Daddy did in the band. Well, Charlie and Johnny were always making these records, fiddle banjo records, and they called Jerry to come play dobro on one of their records. And somewhere in the process of that going on, they said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do a Flatt and Scruggs band? And so they all agreed to try it. And, uh, Jerry called me. They were stuck. At first, they had Del McCurry going to be Lester in the deal. And they didn't know who to call because Del backed out of doing it or something. And Jill, Jerry's wife, Jill said, why don't you try Shawn Camp? And so Jerry called me and said, we're thinking about putting together a Flatt and Scruggs band and wanted to know if you might want to be Lester. And I said, oh, why, hell yes. And so we had a little rehearsal, and I went over there. And the first rehearsal, I wore a pinstripe suit and a hat, an old straw Western hat, and a Colonel Sanders tie. The first time I walked in there, I had that on. Because I said, boys, this is, we've got to do this. That we can't do this band if we don't look the part. We got to have that part together. And so Charlie said first, he said, well, I'm not wearing no hat. I don't wear hats, and several of these guys, yeah, we don't wear hats. And then before long, everybody wanted to wear hats, man. But we played 8 bars. We just got into something at the very first tune, and it was like I said, "Whoa!" I had to stop. We stopped. I said, man, this is so close to that sound. It's out of body kind of the experience of thinking about trying to do this as close to the Foggy Mountain Boys as we were attempting, and it was just exciting and what a treat to work with those guys.
Yeah. So you said it's like a Broadway musical. You're actually in a way playing Lester Flatt. with that band on stage? You kind of talk like him, you sing like him, you look like him, you dress like him a little bit, right? That's part of the whole thing that people love.
Well, I don't know if they love it or not, but that's the only way I can do it, because to sing those songs the right way, you really kind of have to bend your notes the way Lester did for the tension in the music. And, you know, to do that without the full blown character throughout the band,
Mm.
it's kind of like goofy. It's a goofy thing. If everybody's not on the same page, it's not going to work. And so that's what I meant by we've all got to wear, we got to look the part, we got to do it if we're going to do it. So yeah, to me, I mean, I don't have a script, but I try to, you think about the way they talked in the early '60s or whatever. When I walk up to the mic, everything we talk about. Now Jerry's a little bit out of the mold. He's talking about flying saucers and stuff like that once in a while. But that's kind of the craziness of it all, is trying to pull him back into the character of the time. So, and it's fun. We can't help but smile when we're in the middle of that stuff.
No. Do you like imitating old country singers? Like I assume you probably can imitate a lot of different country singers with the voice that you have. Do you enjoy that? Is that something you do, or is it just
I
in a
like it. It's fun. I don't want to do it all the time. I don't like necessarily being called a mimic, but that's what I'm doing.
uh,
And I mean, yeah, I mean Johnny Cash or Hank Williams or uh, you know, talking like Bill Monroe. That's fun. I can't sing like Bill, but it's fun to talk like him.
right, right. Do you
Yeah,
think that the idea for Earls of Leicester was influenced kind of by Tony Rice Bluegrass Album Band? Because he did something not at all like Earls of Leicester, but he was, I think, really wanted to keep the tradition alive. And
yeah,
I've heard that even in that band, he didn't want to solo, but they said, no, you have to solo, because there weren't really
yeah.
guitar solos back in the day.
Yeah. I grew up. I mean, listening to that. I bought the first record and all of those bluegrass album band records, and went to see him live. And what an influence, and what a man, what a beautiful thing for Tony and those guys to do. It reset the you know reality really of what bluegrass music is. And once in a while you got to remind yourself. And I think that's kind of what the Earls of Leicester have done, even though we're not out there all the time. Just uh, it kind of reestablished that, hey man, this is the way they did it, and this music is a powerful thing. And when you're playing it live and you feel that music hitting that crowd, uh, there's something that only happens when it's done the right way. And you feel it. And uh, we're not always the greatest, but we're attempting to be what they did. What the great stuff was. And once in a while we get a flash of that feeling. And it's almost like stepping back in time.
Yeah, yeah. The young star Billy Strings, I have to say, for all of his gadgetry and his pedals and stuff, really is, I think, keeping true to the style of the old stuff, Doc Watson and all that. I mean, the audience probably doesn't necessarily know that he's like an encyclopedia of old music and he loves it and he's playing it. They just like the whole show. But
Yeah.
I think I've been told by people, especially, he actually played here before he was famous, believe it or not. But um, I've been told by people that, yeah, he really is like, if not the most, one of the most knowledgeable people about the traditions and really wants to keep them going,
Yeah.
which I think is great for someone like that who's so in the public.
Yeah, man. God bless Billy, because he is that, and he's a great player and great singer, and he knows the true roots and what it is. He's got a foothold on tradition that very few have, and it's beautiful to see somebody have success that understands where we're coming from, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah. Do you remember the best advice you ever got about the music business? Did anybody ever say to you, son, before you get too involved in this, watch out for this? Or was there any piece of advice that really was helpful starting out that you can
No,
remember?
not really, but it
No.
reminds me of this old story. Roger Miller's walking through the Nashville airport, and some young songwriter runs up to him and said, Roger Miller, you got any advice for any young up and coming songwriter in Nashville? And he said, yes, son. He said, keep your change in one pocket and your pills in the other one, because I just took my last 37 cents. So that always,
That's good.
that's probably good advice. I don't know.
If you could have sat down and played music with anybody in music history, I guess bluegrass or country music history that you didn't get to play with already, is there anybody that you would have liked to just sit down on the couch with and either listen to or pick a few songs with, or
Hmm.
any?
Man, that's a good question. Hmm. Alive or dead?
Well, I'm gonna we can go either. I
Man.
mean, they'd be alive when you picked with them, but I mean, they don't have to be alive now.
Hmm. Lord, I don't even know. I don't know where to begin. Can we come back to that?
We'll come back to. It's funny. I had different people have said. Missy Raines was on here. She said, "Oh, Jimmy Martin," and Rhonda Vincent said James Taylor. So people have different
Hmm.
different kind of musical idols they'd like to just like sing with. I don't know.
Maybe Elvis Presley. I don't know. I know,
Elvis.
it'd be fun to hang out with Elvis and pick with Elvis. I don't know, man. There's so many though. That's not, Elvis really wasn't too bluegrass. He did do Blue Moon of Kentucky, but
Yeah. Uh, was there ever a point in your musical life where you kind of got discouraged and thought about, maybe this isn't really what I want to be doing, or you've been just plugging away all along and never had a. I mean, I'm sure everybody has doubts from about this and that from time to time, but you ever like consider doing something else, or were you always going to do this forever?
I don't know what else I could do. I mean, I, I wish I could think of something that would be good to do, but man, I'd have probably been better off if I'd have just got out of high school and went to work like everybody else. But I just couldn't stop picking on the guitar and making up bullshit. So,
I think the world would be not as good a place without your song. So I think that's I'm glad you didn't do that.
well, thanks, man. I hope I can write another one. Sometimes I feel like I've dried up and never going to have another song idea in my mind. But sometimes I just wake up and there's something there. But it's just kind of living on a dream. That's all I've ever done.
Yeah. So if you had your own podcast, who would your first musical guest be on the Shawn Camp podcast? Who would you want to have on first to talk to?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe Chris Stapleton or Billy Strings. Uh, I don't know. All the old timers are about gone. I can't really think of who I'd want to talk to from that. There's some. Bill Anderson's written some great songs. It'd be great to talk to Bill. Man, I don't know. There's a lot of great songwriters still around. So I could fill up my calendar with just songwriters and visit with them.
That'd be a nice podcast because you'd have a lot in common to talk about. All right.
Maybe I'll give that a shot one of these days. If you'll tell me how to get a podcast going.
Oh man. I mean, whatever. It's not that hard if I can do it. So what's on your bucket list for the next couple of years? Are you still touring with the Earls of Leicester, or is that kind of winding down, or is that?
We've kind of wound down, man. We've got one date, August 31st, over in Tryon, North Carolina, at the Earl Scruggs Festival, and that's the only date we've got this year. We played on the Outlaw Music Cruise earlier this year, and but Jerry Douglas is out with Alison Krauss, and he's gone this year and next year. So uh, I don't really see us touring until 27, probably,
Mhm.
but hopefully we'll have a new record by then and it'll make sense to do that,
So in the meantime, are you doing solo gigs, or what are you pursuing?
I do a lot of solo stuff. I also work with Verlin Thompson, and Verlin and I go out and do a Guy Clark tribute show, which is just really a lot of fun. Play all these Guy songs or things we wrote with Guy, and we tell Guy Clark stories, and it's always a great evening hanging out with Verlin. And he's one of the most underrated, amazing songwriters and pickers in this country, and uh, he's a great guy. And so I do that, and I play solo, and I'm going to be doing some shows with this bluegrass type band that to support the new Ghost of Sis Draper album, and hoping to get on a good tour schedule and work all over the country if I can.
You ever come up to New England? I know it's a long haul.
I'm coming up
There's
there.
a lot of musicians who don't want to come up. It's just too far to drive and I don't know.
Now I'm going to be up there on the 21st of November with my buddy Jim Rooney, great legendary folk singer, country record producer. He lives up in Vermont, but I think we're going to play in Northampton, Mass, at the Parlor, maybe.
Parlor room, yeah, that's yeah.
I mean, check the schedule, but I think the 21st of November we'll be up there, and we're going to Ireland the week before that, so we'll be over there playing, and come back to his home and run over there for the show. And check my schedule on ShawnCamp.com, and also, if anybody wants to book me, I'm taking bookings, and you can get a hold of John Everhart at New Frontier Touring, and that's email address is on their website, New Frontier Touring.
I know John, and I might try to book you myself. So
come on with it.
I'm going to talk to him.
All right.
So, is there any question that I should have asked you during this talk that I didn't ask you, or we covered enough here? Is there anything else you want to throw out there? Or
man, nothing I can think of, but
okay.
Like I say, I don't do podcasts.
Oh, you just did one. So that can't be true anymore.
All right. Good deal.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. It's about an hour we've talked, and you've covered a lot of stuff from your career, your writing, your musical friends, and I hope people will look for that album, The Ghost of Sis Draper, which comes out in September, you said?
September 12th, yeah.
September 12th. And maybe someday you come up here and do a Guy Clark tribute up here in Connecticut. There's a lot of Guy Clark fans up here, believe me. And a lot of your fans up here too. So that might be something to think about down the road.
Man, just let me know and we'll be there. Wouldn't be a trick at all to get us up there.
Okay, it sounds as easy. I don't think it's that easy, but it sounds easy. Nothing's ever that easy.
I don't know. Try.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, Shawn. I'm gonna stop it here. I'll send the link to the podcast when we're all done.
All right, Chris. Thanks so much. Great to talk to you, man.
You too, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.